This is the big one. This is the supersized Pro iPhone, the biggest and most expensive in the lineup. That controversial all-new design is pretty much visible from space. And for this one, I had to settle for the less obnoxious color. If you want to see the new Cosmic Orange up close, I got that color on the regular-sized 17 Pro, which I already unboxed. Now, the Pro Max this year, I feel like is still kind of enticing. There's like 2 or 3 things that are unique to this phone that I'll explain. But first things first, let's just quickly get it out of the box, and then I'll fill you in on everything you need to know. So sliding off the lid, you're immediately shown the phone here, and I do like this shade of blue, but I think we all wish there was a better color selection this year. Aside from that, the only other things still included are a couple of pieces of paper, some legal information, and an eSIM info sheet, and then the nice braided USB-C charging cable that's been tossed in now for a couple of years. A pretty familiar unboxing experience, obviously, but when it comes to the phone, this is an unfamiliar iPhone for sure. Price-wise, the Pro Max is still the most expensive iPhone you can buy. It starts at $1,199, which gets you 256 gigabytes of storage. But if you have money to burn and an obscene amount of videos or apps, you can now buy a 2 terabyte Pro Max for a cool $2,000. And as I'm sure you know, the color options on the Pro Max this year have caused a bit of an uproar. There's this rather tame deep blue, a simple silver, and then the Cosmic Orange, which appears to be everyone's favorite. At 6.9 inches, the 17 Pro Max stands alone as the biggest iPhone you can buy. It's the same size as previous Pro Maxes, but its previous competition has been cut from the lineup and replaced. The next size down is now the all-new iPhone Air, which is 6.5 inches corner to corner. Apple seems to have killed off the Plus iPhone we had for a couple of years, and the regular-sized iPhone 17 Pro and the regular spec iPhone 17 are now an identical 6.3 inches. Of course, there are plenty of other reasons to get this Pro Max besides just the screen, but if you like them big, there's no bigger iPhone than this one. Around back, the all-new design looks extra obvious on this big phone. And not only does it look different, but it's built different too. The Pro iPhones have reverted back to aluminum for the housing and frame. It's a new unibody form factor that's supposedly functional. Aluminum is better at dissipating heat and sustaining peak performance. More on that tidbit a little later. And that off-center Apple logo and mismatched rectangle section, that's a frosted matte glass. Ceramic Shield 1 on the back there, and on the front, Apple has introduced Ceramic Shield 2, which is more resistant to scratches and cracks and has a coating that cuts down on glare. Oh yeah, there's also that much bigger camera bump. Apple has officially named this area of the phone. It's now called the camera plateau for some reason. And along with the 3 lenses, some other components of the phone were moved up in here too, in order to fit a larger battery. Altogether, this still looks like an iPhone, mostly, but it's certainly the most dramatic redesign we've had in quite a few years. And just quickly checking in on everything else, the volume buttons and action button are in their same spots. The power button is still there, and so is camera control for some reason. Up at the top, there's a new antenna band. These Pro iPhones have some updated cell and networking components for better reception, Bluetooth, and Wi-Fi, which is great. The USB-C port is still there at the bottom, alongside the main speaker and microphone holes. The secondary speaker is up at the top above the dynamic island, and you saw already 3 Pro cameras, which I'll talk more about in a minute. Now, one important thing to quickly know about the Pro Max this year is that there's basically nothing different versus the smaller 17 Pro, besides the screen size, obviously, and the battery size. The Pro Max doesn't have additional camera features, for example. Like in previous years, it doesn't offer any better internal specs. I guess the 2 terabyte option is unique also, but Apple didn't differentiate this phone from the smaller 17 Pro in any other notable way, which is something they used to do the last couple of years. The 6.9-inch display on this year's Pro Max gains some additional brightness and is protected by that new, stronger Ceramic Shield 2 glass, but otherwise it's the same spec as the 16 Pro Max. It's Apple's LTPO Super Retina XDR OLED panel, 1320 by 2868 resolution with 120 Hz ProMotion. And it can now reach 3000 nits of peak brightness, which should be a bit better for viewing outside on sunny days. It's otherwise the same great display you'd expect on a Pro iPhone. Obviously, it's big, huge size is great for YouTube videos or movie watching. It's been probably a few years now since the screen was a big focus for the iPhone, but I'm alright with minimal changes. I think the brightness boost will be helpful, and I do hope the front glass stays scratch-free, but I don't know what else, if anything, Apple could have added that would have made the viewing experience substantially better. The dual speaker setup on this new Pro Max seems to be old news too. I don't think that this is any different of an out loud sound than the previous few years, and I won't waste your time with a sound sample, but trust me, it sounds the same as last year. So I mentioned this a minute ago, but I want to dive a little deeper into it now. The new aluminum form factor and unibody design on the Pro iPhones this year weren't totally just an aesthetic design change. Apple, for the first time, has incorporated a new vapor chamber cooling feature within these Pro iPhones that sits within the new aluminum housing that itself should further dissipate heat. This twofold change to the hardware and internal component structure is a big talking point for these Pro iPhones, and I'm really curious to see if this new phone stays cooler now with more sustained performance under pressure. More specifically, I hope this phone doesn't get embarrassingly hot doing the literal bare minimum, like charging or watching a YouTube video outside. My iPhone 16 Pro feels like a hot plate half the time after about 7 minutes of use. In addition, the Pro iPhones get a new, faster Pro processor, the A19 Pro, and that's now paired with 12 gigabytes of RAM. The first increase in that department in quite some time too, and long desired, especially for Pro users and gamers. Of course, you get all the iOS 26 changes on this phone. You probably have seen liquid glass on your old phone though. And while there's always a big push by Apple to prove their performance upgrades, I'm mainly going to be looking for a cooler iPhone this year. I really hope that this new Pro, the vapor chamber inside it, and the new but old aluminum redesign make a difference in my daily use cases. Especially since for me, year-over-year performance enhancements have become increasingly less noticeable and important. The other important component inside this phone, of course, is its battery, and Apple bumped up the size here too. There is an asterisk though with this. If you have an eSIM-only iPhone 17 Pro Max, like I do here in the US, you get a slightly bigger battery, 5,088 milliamp hours. If your iPhone has a physical SIM card tray, there wasn't quite enough room, apparently, so you get a 4,832 milliamp hour battery. Either way, that's still a capacity increase over last year's Pro Max. And initial battery tests have been showing that not only is this the longest lasting iPhone within the lineup yet again this year, it has the biggest battery of course, but it's also lasting at least another hour or two versus last year's phone. I think Apple's A19 chip and iOS 26 have something to do with that too. And Apple did make it a point to highlight the battery improvements a number of times during their iPhone 17 announcement this year. On top of that, you can charge this phone a little faster too. It supports the Power Delivery 3.2 standard, so you can charge up from 0 to 50% in about 20 minutes with the proper accessories. There's 25-watt Qi 2 wireless charging as well, so a good grouping of battery and charging enhancements this year. Finally,